Let's bring in Karl Rove, former President George W. Bush senior advisor to Fox Business contributor. Karl, great to see you. Thanks for being here. We'll talk specifically about inflation in a moment, but I want to get your general impression. What did we learn from the primaries yesterday?
Well, the biggest takeaway I took was that Ohio is no longer a swingy purple state. The Republican turnout is 1,000,001. The Democrats are going to be lucky to get close to 600,000.
Wow.
Compare that to 4 years ago when there were 800 and some odd thousand Republicans and 689,000 Democrats. So there was about 150,000 difference between them 4 years ago when both of them had hot primaries for the governorship. This time around, both sides had hot primaries, the Democrats for the governor, the Republicans for the Senate and the governorship, and the Republican turnout blew them away by almost 2-1.
Yeah, and that's happening all over the country, particularly because of the running away from Democrats by the independents. I mean, that's from my eyes, the independents represent about 42% of the voters. That's a lot more than what the Democrats or the Republicans get. So for them to desert the Democratic Party as they've been doing is going to be disastrous in November for Democrats.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And this issue of inflation is going to be driving them a lot. I was looking inside the Fox poll. Think about this. Do you think inflation is going to last more than a year? 45% of the people in the Fox poll said that. What was interesting is it was 45% in April. It was also 45% in January. So the deeper we get into this, we're not feeling like, oh, boy, it's going to get a lot better soon. We're thinking, oh, I'm hoping it's over in a year. Serious hardship on your family. Groceries, 44%. Gas, 44%. Think about that. Nearly 1 out of every 2 Americans says the price of groceries and gas is a serious problem for their family. And the family's financial position, better 18%, worse 44%, about the same 38%. So you're right. And these numbers, the independents look more like the Republicans than they do Democrats. And that's a bad sign for the Democrats in the midterms.
And Karl, today we got another sign about inflation, that the Fed is not going to be Paul Volcker-like in trying to attack it. I mean, it was a half point. It was the biggest rise in a while of interest rates. But the message from Mr. Powell, the head of the Fed, was that he's going to try for a soft landing, which means he's not going to be as tough against inflation as he needs to be to lick it. And that means that inflation is going to be there front and center come November.
Absolutely. In fact, not only is it going to be front and center in November, we're likely to see a repeat, not a repeat of 82 when the Republicans took the medicine and by 84 we're in good shape. This means the problem's going to linger. If the Fed is not going to take tough action to clamp down on inflation now, this is going to linger on into 2023 and affect 2024 as well.
Yeah. Now let's talk abortion in this leaked decision, or the preliminary decision by one of the justices, by Alito. How much of an effect do you think that will have come November? November's a relatively long time in political history.
Yeah, look, I think there's going to be a nuanced effect. I think a slight advantage to the Democrats because it's going to energize some of the younger voters, particularly younger women who care passionately about this. But look, we've got a very nuanced view of this. If people wake up and say, wait a minute, this is going to be decided by my state legislature. I live in California. We've already got a law in the book that says we'll have abortion here. Oh, I live in, pick another state, Louisiana. Well, we've got a law in the books that says that we're going to have constraints on abortion, nothing after 15 weeks or 20 weeks. I think that as this thing plays out, we're going to see a lot less drama than we might expect from the initial rhetoric. If I were the Democrat and I didn't want to talk about inflation and I didn't want to talk about the economy and I didn't want to talk about foreign affairs in Ukraine, I didn't want to talk about immigration, I didn't want to talk about crime, I'd be saying, let's talk a lot about abortion.
Which is what they're trying to do, and they're raising money on it now. But describe for me or explain for me a puzzle that I find when I look at two polls on abortion and Americans' feeling about it. On the one hand, Americans don't want Roe v. Wade to expire. The 63% say let it stand. But then on the other hand, when you ask whether it should be legal or illegal, you've had a switch where now 54% of Americans say it should be mostly or always illegal. So on the one hand, most Americans say it should be illegal. On the other hand, most Americans want Roe v. Wade to continue. So explain that to me.
One is a symbol. Roe v. Wade is a woman's right to abortion, and the other is a specific. I mean, think about this. 2 out of every 3 Americans say there shouldn't be any abortions in the second and third trimesters, for example. I mean, you know, in the Wall Street Journal poll, 48% said they supported a ban after 15 weeks versus 44 who said did. That's the Mississippi law. So anybody who tries to digest the abortion issue and say it's a straightforward, simple thing is not recognizing the complexity of the issue.
No, nor are they recognizing how science, as we discover more ways to keep babies alive, has developed. They say follow the science, the Democrats, and of course they rarely do. Karl Rove, what a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, David.